Hello and welcome to Read Play Game, where we look at tabletop role-playing games from every side of the table. I am the rules lawyer, and we are playing Jamais Vu today.
I'm Emma Skaggs. I will be playing today.
I'm Anish Pinamaraju, and I'll be playing today.
I'm Tori Jewell, and I'll be playing today.
I'm Michael Sparks, and I will be GMing today.
Woo!
Spectacular. For people tuning in for the first time, this is the first part of our three-part structure of this podcast, the read portion. But we won't just be reading. We'll be walking through the character creation process of an RPG that we've selected this week, talking through the rules as we go. Then that will be followed by later episodes where we play through a one-shot with the characters we've made and then reflect on the system. Feel free to listen to whichever of these interest you, and feel free to skip whichever of these don't. However, in this case, the read portion of the game is actually pretty integral to the game itself. It's part of one of the steps of actually playing through the game. So I would say listen to all of them, but I would do that anyway.
We've been playing a lot like that recently, where kind of the creation is the play, is the
read play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's also
play.
Yeah, it's like very important to the context of the actual play, though they are different. So, That being said, today we will, like I said, we're playing a game called Jamais Vu, which is an RPG designed by Kevin M. Rodrigo. It is actually based on the 2019 video game Disco Elysium.
Jamais Vu. Replay game.
So like I said, this game is inspired by Disco Elysium, which is a video game that already is itself inspired by tabletop role-playing games. It's one of the most popular recent translations of role-playing games from the table to the screen, up there with things like, Baldur's Gate 3. Its system is celebrated in the way it both resembles traditional tabletop role-playing and also creates something brand new. So the goal of this game, it seems, is to sort of take that system that they use in the game and turn it into an actual tabletop role-playing game. So it is a completely fan-created work, and it is not sort of an officially licensed thing. But Michael is a really big fan of Disco Elysium. I've played it a little bit. I think Anish has played a little bit. So we kind of wanted to see what it would be like to play it as a role-playing game. The title, I did a little I looked into it a little bit. The title of it, I don't know if it's an actual thing said in the game. Do they mention Jamais Vu in the game, Michael? Okay, now
in the video game?
Yeah, now you're nodding, Anish. I kind of trust
Pretty
Michael's
sure.
opinion more than you on this.
No, they don't.
I looked it up. I looked it up, I think. Disco Elysium. Jamais Vu. It's called Derealization. It's a thought in Disco Elysium.
Oh,
Is
it's
it?
a thought, but it's...
Oh, it's a thought. Yeah. Okay, well,
Yeah.
It is the title Jamais Vu is based on the psychological concept of jamais vu, which is a French term, which is the opposite of déjà vu. Déjà vu being like, I am experiencing something that I feel like I've experienced before, even though I've never experienced it before. Jamais vu is experiencing something that you should have, like logically, you've experienced before, but it feels entirely new to you.
That's because jamais means never and vu means seen.
Yes.
Someone
took 6 years.
Someone knows French. Okay.
What does déjà mean?
Already. Like
Look at
another,
that.
I think. I don't know. I fucking took 6 years of French and forgot it all.
I struggled to sort of like understand exactly where this concept would happen until I looked at an example of it, where the example was like when you say a word a bunch of times or read a word a bunch of times to the point where it doesn't seem real anymore. Like it seems like you say a word over and over and over, and then you look at it and it's like you're seeing it for the first time, or you just don't recognize it as a word. That's kind of the vibe of it. And it makes sense that is being applied to this game, because the central premise of Disco Elysium is that you're an amnesiac detective attempting to simultaneously solve a murder and figure out his own past. So that's the premise of the game, and that's what it sort of intends to capture. Obviously, the video game is only one player, so it's going to be different here because you're three different people who all have amnesia and all are trying to figure out your backstory at the same time as a crime. So Michael, do you want to talk a little bit about the game, or both the tabletop game and the video game, as because you
Sure,
obviously
yeah.
know more than I do?
A little bit going into Disco Elysium, the game itself, and also kind of the structure of Jamais Vu. Disco Elysium very much is based, and the story of it is kind of centered around this idea of anarchy, government, it's very political in terms of its themes and the way in which it looks at how there's a lot of themes of different kinds of sides of political unrest, people coming up, rising, kind of taking power from themselves. But in terms of the way in which it approaches that, even though it has a very core thesis about life, it's also very hopeful. Even though it's this world that's very beaten down, it's this post-war kind of society dealing with all of this stress, all of the poverty, unrest, homelessness, all of the stuff that comes from that. It's still very hopeful in terms of this idea that the whole thing is about you deciding who you are and how people interact with you, and you yourself are coming up with and making choices for yourself. And everyone is very layered and different. And I think that's what's fun about it, because through this amnesia, through this kind of core establishment that it has you set up in the game, you are able to decide your own story, regardless of who you were in the past, which I think is one of the fun things. Because throughout the game, you gradually discover more and more about your past, but the person you are through this amnesia can be totally different, or it could be the same. It gives you that ability to choose who you want to be.
So when you say the game is based, do you mean literally based because it has?
It literally is pretty based. Yeah, no, it literally is pretty based. But I think one of the core things of this, and we discussed this briefly before starting, there are all of these different skills that kind of decide how you interact with the world and how you find clues, how you do all of this stuff. The main thing to keep in mind is, while it's good to have skills that are high, generally good to have skills that are high, sometimes having skills that are too high can lead to overindulgence, or you could find a clue, you could make a hunch that maybe it doesn't work out, maybe it's not exactly how things happened. We'll go into this more later in terms of solving the case and how hunches work and that kind of stuff. But it's all about balance, but it's about taking risks and trying new things. And I think that's what's fun about it.
One thing that was off the top of my head, jumping off that, when I played Disco Elysium, the video game, the thing that jumped out to me was that it was so based in RPG mechanics.
Yes,
like
everything
all the
is
things,
on die rolls.
everything you did in the video game was up to choice because you rolled 2d6 modified by those 16 stats. And the other thing that was really cool about the game is typically those stats are these kind of fixed representations of a certain skill. But in Disco Elysium, they're also characters. It has great voice acting. And let's say you have like a high electrochemistry skill. That's one of the 16 skills. Basically, you love to do drugs. It's great. When you walk into a room and you see like a bottle of alcohol, your electrochemistry skill will talk to you. Like the Green Goblin in your fucking head, like, drink the bottle, drink the bottle. So the more of a skill you get, it's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just that you are so seeped in this voice is just speaking so loudly in your skull. And it affects your personality. So it's a very characterized stat-based system. So it really translates well to an RPG.
They have written in the book there are 24 skills and they are non-player.
24 skills.
Yeah, there are 24 skills and they're non-player characters with full rights. You just and like there's going to be times in the game where like someone prompts a skill to talk to another character, and we'll obviously talk about that later.
Right. And like Anish said, all of the skills kind of for example, Inland Empire is very similar. Inland Empire is something where it's like, oh, you're speaking with the extrasensory, like the gods, like that kind of stuff. Like you have a type on the like the underneath of everything going on, spirituality type stuff, and it's fun. And then there's stuff like drugs that interact and improve your skills, but also damage your health or damage your morale. Things like gear, which is able to improve your skills, but we'll go into all of that as well.
Yeah, well, one thing that happened when I played the game is that I've also played the game. I didn't get very far, and had 2 playthroughs because I started over because I hadn't played it in so long. The first time I was like, I'll focus on like the psyche skills, and that'll be the way that I play it. And then like generally, like anytime one of those like contemplative, like sort of like deep thoughts came in, like you get a lot more of those. But in terms of the actual mystery, I was so bad at figuring out any of it. So I was just kind of wandering around, not learning anything. And then I played the game. The second playthrough, I chose intellect, so I like chose to actually be decent at solving mysteries, and like it's crazy. It's an entirely different game, and I've really only played
so
like
different.
An hour or 2 of the game of each of those, and it's just an entirely different game because I was actually competent.
Yeah, it's like one of the big things. I played through the game like 3 or 4 times. All of the different skills, like for example, if your physique is really high, bashing down doors, punching in skulls, getting through stuff for violence, but you might not be really good at talking things out and like consoling people, consoling someone who's like whose husband just died, or intellect is very high, but if you slip and fall, you die or break a bone, that kind of stuff. So it's all about the checks and balances of those things and really playing into the specific stuff that you're good at and focusing on that. But because it's random, like dice rolls, you can still succeed with things you're not good at, but it might not be as easy.
Yeah. So let's jump into talking about character creation and stuff like that. One thing to note is that this game is very much designed as it has 3 different play options. There is solo, buddies, and guided. Solo being you can literally play this game alone. Guided being you play with like a friend or 2 and you play GM-less and you just figure it out yourself. Like basically it would be like if it was just Tori, Anish, and Emma playing and Michael wasn't doing anything, but you can also have a GM who guides the experience for you, which we're going to be doing. If you don't play with a GM, there's oracles. They're called oracles at the end of the book that just entirely can generate anything for you. There's a lot of like whether it's a yes or no question or whether it's like here's a scenario, like generate a location or a character. It's got everything. And okay, in terms of guided, when you're creating characters, you can use as the players, you 3, if you want ideas for your initial character ideas or your character concepts, you can use these oracles to help you generate them. Like if you have no clue what kind of character you have, which I think you all have decent ideas, but feel free to consult those oracle things and you can just roll it or like find suggestions. That being said, Michael has come up with a lot of stuff. So, or Michael, not a lot, but like Michael will help guide through stuff.
Yeah. Not in terms of like there is one of the ideas of this and like the conceits of this is we're making these characters or y'all are making these characters that kind of go along with this world. I have some ideas for what the world will be in loose character names, ideas of people you might run into. But that's something we can kind of conceptualize and talk through together in terms of figuring out where we begin and that kind of stuff to go along with each of y'all's individual characters.
It's honestly just a way of speeding up the game because like if you're playing without a GM, you're going to be like rolling these dice and stuff, but Michael's pretty much pre-done that a lot.
So setup will be quicker.
Yeah. So like I said, 24 skills, all based on 4 central themes: intellect, psyche, physique, and motorics. So what you guys are all going to do is for your character, you are going to assign your skills, assign numbers to each of these skills. So you have 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And you can take those numbers and assign them to any of, I guess that's 7 numbers, right? Yeah, assign 7 different skills to those numbers, depending on what you want to be your highest. The rest of the skills will be 0. And when you're writing this down on your character sheet, there's 2 columns. There's natural and modifier. Write it down in the natural column.
Questions about how skills work.
Yarr.
Is the natural number the 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1?
Yes.
Are those the number we add to our dice rolls?
Yes.
Okay, so if I roll my best skill, it'd be a 2d6 plus 7.
Yeah. So it's like with the dice rolls, the challenge rating can go from I need to look up the specifics, but it's like if you roll 2 1s, it always fails. If you roll 2 6s, it always succeeds. But in terms of what you need to roll, I think it can go up to 20. I might be wrong. I need to look at the exact number.
I think it's more than 20, actually.
It's more than 20. I can't remember what the exact number is. Let me find that section.
Impossible tasks are 20.
Yeah, okay, it is 20. Yeah.
It goes from trivial to impossible.
Yeah.
But if we roll 2d6,
plus your modifier.
But even that's not enough.
Oh, unless you have drugs or if we improve our skills.
Yeah, there's items and stuff that can give you modifiers to the that's already not modifiers.
That's why, so you're natural, and then the modifiers will go over this after you select the skills you want for your gear. The gear is the stuff that will add skills. Plus, if you take drugs, can add stuff to your skills as well.
So the thing that you put the 7 on, you're going to be extremely good at. You're like pretty much going to guarantee success at that skill. It's going to be the minimum you can roll with that. I think is a 10.
Yep.
Excluding if you roll 2 1s.
That's gear. That's gear of my comfort character.
Another thing to note when you're creating your characters and to keep in mind, feel free to use the oracles if you want, because those are very helpful. You'll take the role of an investigator working on a case, typically a police detective or a journalist. There is a mystery and an expectation for you to solve it, but your amnesia doesn't help. So those police detective or journalist are going to be your common ways to get into that situation. But if you can justify something else, that also works. You're not a hero. Heck, you're not even an anti-hero. Your description can't contain the word hero at all, no matter the number of negative prepositions and adverbs. You might be good at a couple of things, but are an unsuccessful professional and an unremarkable human being. This case is too big for you, on a disproportion of biblical proportions. You'll struggle under its weight on the brink of being crushed, but it's okay. It will make a glorious story, we promise. So keep that in mind.
Maybe there's a reason even an hour into playing Disco Elysium, you didn't solve anything on your first run.
Yeah, you kind of suck.
Yeah.
Another quote that I like in this, on I believe page 8, that really outlines what your character will do, is you play Jamais Vu to discover who your character is, lurking between the shadows of their mind. So really all you know is their basic stuff, and beyond that you'll find out.
Okay. Tori, you had some ideas about where you wanted your skills to go, right?
Yes. In fact, I think I've assigned them.
Sweet.
Should I go through it or
what
no?
are they? Yeah, sure.
I give you my name? Not yet.
I don't think. Do you know your name? I don't think you know your name.
Okay, well, there's a name fillable portion, so
maybe
maybe
have
you
like
do.
a name tag.
I think we can remember I feel like remembering the
you
names
know what?
is-
In my fantasy, I'm a camera guy, so I might have a name tag.
Yeah.
Possibly.
True.
Yeah.
And I guess you'll have to correct me on how much is like in-game versus out-of-game knowledge. But I also, on the side, teach workout classes. So my top skill is volition, which seems to be like willpower, that inner motivator. It's the thing that forces you to eat broccoli instead of potato chips.
Yeah, and also see things clearly a little bit, like you said. Yeah.
And then after that, physical instrument.
Mm-hmm.
Esprit de corps. Am I saying that wrong?
Spirit decor.
Esprit de corps.
Give me 1 second. Esprit de corps.
Okay. I'll leave it to you.
Totally botched.
Which is like teamwork ability. So, leading my workout classes, I got the team going. Endurance, authority, hand-eye coordination. Hand-eye coordination.
Well, okay.
And empathy.
In-game? Great.
And what?
Cool.
Empathy.
Okay.
Awesome. And that's from most to least is how you listed them.
Most to least, correct.
Sweet. And awesome. And I think now that you have that, we'll go over gear in a bit. But I think all of these ideas you have about the gym, leading gym classes could really inform the kind of gear you pick for your character, which we'll go
Yeah,
over later.
Michael, why don't we actually? I feel like we maybe should have said this before jumping in with and creating, like talking about the characters themselves. Do you want to talk, like set up the setting a little bit? Let me scroll back to the details of stuff to include. Um, the investigation setup. Creating the case requires collaboration and consensus from everyone in the table. There's a crucial part of the game, so don't rush it. Establish the following. I think this is more intended to be more collaborative if you don't have a GM. I think that you all can contribute and will be contributing a lot to it. I think Michael has a scenario sort of.
I have a rough mostly what I've done is I've set up different characters and I have a list of names to generate random characters as well.
Yeah.
And the concept I have is pretty broad, so we can fit in basically
Yeah.
any kind of stuff we're coming up with.
Just go through each of the bullet points and you give the info for what you think might be.
This is
relevant there.
page 15, right? That's what we're
Page
looking
15, investigation setup. Yeah.
Great. Yeah. So creating the case requires collaboration. Perfect. Yeah. So the basic investigation setup that I have come up with, I'll just read you this brief paragraph I wrote. After the Great Recession, following the collapse of the pre-war government, the MDO, the New Development Organization, stepped up as the primary employer of the town of Minsk. Nearly everyone in the community works for this company. Minsk is a town steeped in history. Once a thriving town, years of recession and unrest have left it hollow and empty. Many people that used to live here are now either dead or gone. Job diversity has been forgotten in exchange for the growth of the NDO, which hopes to bring life back into the formerly thriving area, or bring money into the pockets of its shareholders, as some people say. Even with everything crumbling, Minsk still has several key locations for investigators to find. Where the fuck did I write down the mystery? Hold on.
Yeah, let me. I think it was at the top. The important.
Oh
details
yeah.
To note
I totally skipped it. Yeah.
It's okay. The important details to note are what's the nature of the crime, who's the victim and whether they're present at the crime, how your characters know of the crime and how they're compelled to investigate it, how the characters get to know each other, and what the game's opening scene is. So we don't have to have all those details right now because obviously some of them are relevant to
I
the
totally
specific
skipped
people.
the paragraph where I talked about all that. That's my bad.
That's okay.
Yeah, Anish.
Anish, do you?
Of note, to kind of compare it to the original game, the crime you're solving, I haven't finished the game, but the crime we're solving in Disco Elysium is there's a guy in the backyard of this motel who's hanging from a tree, and we don't know how he got there.
So this was what I was supposed to read. On the eve before the deconstruction of several apartment complexes was to commence, Alexei Kronkowski, head of Minsk's New Development Initiative, was found dead. His body has been strung upside down from an excavator on display in front of the dilapidated housing district. Now, the rival factions of the town are at each other's throats, wanting blood. Who killed him? Why? And why are people disappearing?
So the details outlined there would be nature of the crime is
person
murder.
Got killed and is hanging.
Yeah.
Murder. The victim
who's the
is
victim?
Alexei Kronkowski, who is there, who is the leader of this New Development Initiative. Characters, how do the characters know of the crime and how are they compelled to investigate it?
So that could be a kind of question that's answered once we know who, or at least the, Go ahead.
I thought it would be fun. You said we could come up with something new if if it makes sense with the circumstances.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would like to be maybe a construction worker, I guess.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's
'Cause
awesome.
I'm wearing these clothes and I'm at the construction site, so I guess that's what I am.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's good. So, like, how the characters know of the crime and how they're compelled to investigate it, construction worker, people in the town, those kinds of stuff, I think are all, like, great ideas. And then how the characters get to know each other and what the game's opening scene is, we can go into later after we figure out characters.
All right, Emma, since you just described your character, do you have your skills outlined?
Not fully.
Anish, you do?
Anish, if you do, you can go.
I can go. On the rule book, when it's talking about creating a character, it also talks about describing how your character wakes up and what their initial hints of their identity are.
Yep.
I have no fucking idea, but I'll describe what I have on my character sheet so far. My best skill is electrochemistry. Um, and how do you describe electrochemistry, Michael? I would.
Electrochemistry mostly is your relationship to drugs and that kind of stuff. So the how much you like them, how much they help you, like your tolerance, that kind of stuff. But also your what's addiction, I think levels. But electrochemistry is basically it can be different. I think it's very much something that you can kind of decide for yourself. But you know about drugs, you know about how they interact with people. I think it could be something like, oh, I've seen people on like this kind of drug before, that kind of stuff. So like you have a really good idea of how like chemicals interact.
Great. And in the game, if you have a high electrochemistry, does it mean you're more prone to doing?
Yes.
Like, great. So that's exactly what I want. I want a 7 electrochemistry. I'm sober in real life. This is my fantasy world. Let's make it happen.
Wait,
Uh,
can, can we read the definition in the handbook for
Oh
electrochemistry?
yeah.
Okay, I got
Electrochemistry.
it.
Oh, you got it?
Um,
Perfect.
the perfect hedonist. Electrochemistry craves a spike in dopamine, be it from sex or drugs alike. It will urge you to grab cigarette ends from the street and lick rum stains from bar stools with no esteem or hygiene or personal decorum while making insinuations to the horrified waitress. Electrochemistry doesn't have any red lines, just serotonin receptors.
it's awesome. The descriptions are so evocative. So that's exactly what I want. 7 in electrochemistry. Next, I have a 6 in shivers. I think it's like when
Nice.
you walk in a room, your gut instinct, like
Hmm.
it's more about feelings than any logic. Uh, 5, in perception. I think it's more about like looking around a room and noticing things.
Hmm.
A 4 in reaction speed. I think that's just like dodging something quickly? Question
Yeah.
mark.
It's kind of mixed in with savoir faire as well, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, dodging.
Um, 3 I have in half light. Um, I actually don't know what that is. uh,
Paranoia, fight or flight instinct, like
fight or flight
being able to
instinct.
tell, yeah, whether
Perfect.
something's bad at a
Uh,
glance. Yeah.
uh, 2 I have in endurance, which is self-explanatory, and 1 in conceptualization. I think that's. I actually don't know how to describe that either. Regardless, I've chosen all the skills that are modified by all the drugs I've picked.
Mm, nice.
Another as sort of the base level for what to understand about the the reality of your character. I'll read through what you can generate in the oracles just to give you guys an idea of what you do know. The first table is gender, then investigator, so that's like police, detective, journalist, amateur sleuth, whatever. Disposition, that's hostile, cautious, neutral, favorable, etc. And then looks, which are stuff like an example one would be tall, short, uh, modern, biker, long hair, glasses, like that fit, physical traits, your disposition, and your job and gender, and that's it. Cool. Emma, do you have yours?
I think so. Um, I think I am a construction worker, and the reason that I am getting involved in this situation is because my empathy is my highest trait,
Nice.
and this happened where I work. And then right below empathy, I have logic. So I think that this is just a very like something's up
Hmm.
and something doesn't look right. Like, and I would have seen it because I was here, you know. And then since I'm a construction worker, I put endurance as 5 because it's just long days. I'm basically, I kind of, I don't, I was thinking a lot about Columbo with this. So, like, empathy, logic, then I put
Hmm.
endurance. This is like, I'm crossing Columbo and um, Goodwill Hunting
Yeah.
of like the chalkboard scene. You know,
Gotcha.
of just like this person fell into it. And
How about
then
MFs?
perception, suggestion, visual calculus, which I honestly might put up higher because I think that's a really fun one.
It is a fun one. Yeah.
Which for the listeners at home, visual calculus is like you go into a room and there's a blood splatter and you're like, well, clearly that came from this angle, so it means that the blood splatter must have been done by a knife at that degree.
It's
And
those.
then-
It's
The
the
Sherlock
weird graphics
ability.
in Sherlock. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then pain threshold as number one. Again, for the
Discombobulate.
construction worker. I think I'm a big guy.
Okay.
Yeah. The question I have now is, when we're talking about making our characters, what does talking about how we woke up look like?
Well, first there's another thing that we have to decide. So we
perfect.
can jump to that after we have chosen gear, I
Yes.
think. The second thing to choose is select or come up with 3 starting pieces of gear, writing their bonuses or penalties in the modifier column of your skills. You may also choose 1 dose of any drug if you want. I think one of you might do that.
Yes. Can I list my gear?
Sure.
Yeah. There's. Are you looking at the thing? Perfect.
Yes. I've chosen alcohol, cocaine, and shrooms.
Great.
Do I have to take them all at once? Do I elect to choose them?
So here, I'll just read the section on gear. Gear refers to any useful object you carry around. Wearing special clothes or using specific tools can apply bonuses or penalties to your skill. You can only use 3 items at a time, and you can't switch during a scene, so you choose wisely. That doesn't mean that your character is constantly changing clothes and items. It just means that only 3 of them will be mechanically relevant in a scene. You can combine 2 small tools if that makes sense in fictional context, but you can't stack multiple clothing items of the same kind. 2 pairs of boots. I think drugs might be separate from gear.
Yeah, drugs
I
are
think they
separate from
are.
gear. Yeah, so you have 3 things of gear, and then you can have drugs.
And then you can have drugs.
A little bit of drugs.
Vegetables first.
Because the drugs give you a temporary boost. So essentially, it's something like if you enter a scene, I think the boost only lasts for a scene. But if you roll successfully on your electrochemistry, you can extend the boost to a second scene without having to take the negative effect again.
Okay. That's fucking dope.
Literally.
Okay,
Um,
so I'm seeing on page 71, there's like actual like clothes lined up.
Yeah,
Did we just come up with
72 through,
these,
yeah.
or
Yeah, these
we
are.
picked these?
I guess these are
These-
examples.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, these are examples of all these different things and bonuses they can do.
I'm trying to figure out if there's like these are not.
The logic of the bonuses.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's a way to homebrew it.
I mean, honestly, I think there are a lot that have bonuses for like different things for people. So it might be like you could just like change the name.
It seems also like a lot of them, which I really enjoy, are just vibe. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like a fedora, a detective fedora just gives you +1 reaction speed. It's not like you're more reactive when you're wearing a fedora, but because you're the type of person that would buy
wear
a
a
detective fedora, you're probably gonna have that. skill,
Yeah.
which I think is fun.
So as a base,
It's like,
if
oh,
you
this is
want,
about me.
if you want the modifiers from any item, I guess you could probably like change what the item is, but keep the modifiers if you want. But also you can choose
Yeah.
from this list.
Yeah. So like Tori, if you were looking at like pain threshold, endurance, like the banana bandana, that kind of stuff.
Want to boost something you already are, or you have to boost something you already have?
You don't have to boost something you already have. You can use it to fill out the parts of your skill set that are lacking.
I guess could Anish select the drugs as his gear?
Yes. I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
they're
you
they're
could.
just used up when you have them. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. It's a temporary instead of a permanent.
Which is why
but-
I need to roll well.
Yeah, no, but since you have such high electrochemistry, you can extend it to another scene. Although I think you can I think you can only do that once. Let me look at it again. Oh, no, you could extend it like permanently technically if you roll well every scene, I think, based on this rule.
I take them all in the first scene.
Yeah, because it says when you're doing drugs, make an electrochemistry skill check at the end of the scene. If successful, you expand the bonus of the drug for another scene or hour. This check is not optional and only takes place once per dose consumed. But I feel like the way I think if you have the drugs, like you use it, but you could always use it again. It's not like you run out of it if you use it once. It just you get the negative every time you use it, unless you
I
roll
see.
with the.
Because there's
Yeah.
always you either lose 1 morale or 1 health, and I don't.
Yeah.
But
know
just say
how
when you
much
use a
that-
drug, it's erased from your inventory.
Oh, it does. Oh, well, that's
Yeah.
the first pair. Yeah.
Hey, we're figuring it out. We're reading.
Yeah.
But you do start with a dose of a drug if you want. So you hypothetically could have 3 drugs on you. They could be multiple of the same drug or 3 different drugs, which you said you wanted, and then also a 4th drug that's already active.
I love this game already.
So you've got your 3 drugs. What drug do you have active right now?
Cocaine.
Cocaine.
Awesome.
Great. Since it's the beginning of the game, would it still minus the health since it's the very beginning?
I'm okay
That was
with
my
that.
question.
Well, that says permanent effects -1 health.
I feel like since you're starting it, maybe that doesn't apply.
It does say that that's when that happened. The drugs damage either your health or morale and provide a boost to some skills depending on their type. The bonuses from drugs dissipate at the end of the current scene, but lost health and morale aren't automatically restored. I think that you do lose the health.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So I guess it's deciding whether you want to lose health or morale. So yeah, cocaine +2 perception, +2 authority, +2 reaction speed, -2 in Inland Empire.
And I assume under the skills column we have the natural column and the modifier column.
Yeah, it would be
Yes.
that would go to your modifier.
And that's also where you, for anyone who's not selecting drugs as their stuff, that's where you would put the modifiers from that gear too. But that gear stuff is more permanent than drugs.
Yeah. Because if you have the shoes, like your shoes will be with you forever, unless that's a complication where you can damage your items, like if you roll poorly.
Do we have other gear?
Okay, I think I have the 3 picked out. So on the handbook there's flashlight, which gives you +2 perception, but instead for me I'm gonna have it be a camera.
Great.
For +2 perception.
With like a flash. Yeah.
Yes, please. And then there's for shoes football boots, but for me they're just going to be a really nice supportive sneaker, which gives plus physical instrument and reaction speed. And then finally they have the metal band t-shirt, which for me is going to be more of a
Tank top.
like a I don't know, something bright. I almost imagine like one of those athletic collared.
Like-
what do you call those? Like a
like
athletic
polos?
polo. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the soccer players, those things.
Yeah, but with like a collar on it. Like
Yeah.
I'm working at the gym.
Yeah.
And that gives +2 to physical instrument. So
Sweet.
yeah,
Awesome.
that's what I'll take.
Spectacular.
I made up one.
Cool.
Okay. I have cargo work pants, which I said gave me +1. I'm looking at the balance. I'm trying to see how they're balanced. I just have that it gives me plus right now to physical instrument. Could be whatever. Could be
Plus
plus
one.
one.
I think
And
it could be
then-
+2. I see a lot.
Generally,
of just
they
+2.
would add up to +2. I think sometimes +3 if it was a less significant skill or something. So yeah.
Then
+2
I'll do it
is
gives
good.
me +2 to physical instrument, -1 to composure. Because that's like
okay.
looking cool.
That's great.
And then
I think you could total it up to 2 +2, right?
Yeah. Total it up to +2. So like you could have it +3 and then -1 to composure.
I could.
Like if you don't
But
want
that's
to, I guess
not-
you don't have to.
Yeah, if you don't want to, you don't need to.
Yeah. And then I did kind of the same thing of I have work boots that give me plus
Work
1
boots.
to endurance. And then I think that I want to have a multi-tool
Nice.
for I'm in between a multi-tool and a hard hat. Or a reflective vest.
I guess what skill do you think will benefit you most?
I have no idea what a reflective vest would do, but I like the idea.
Visibility +2.
Let me look at the skills.
Stealth
plus
minus
2
It could be like a It could be like authority. Authority. That's good. Yeah,
Authority,
wearing-
yeah.
no one questions. No one questions a guy in a high-vis jacket. Yeah,
It's so helpful when trespassing.
yeah.
Okay, I'll do reflective vest plus. I'm gonna do +3 authority.
Yo.
Hey.
That's good.
And then is there one that is like there's not one that is sneaky, but is there one that's like kind of like that? Would that be savoir-faire?
Sneaky's like a savoir-faire. Yeah.
Okay, I will do -1 to that one.
What's the sexy skill? What's the skill that lets me be hot?
Suggestion?
Suggestion. Yep.
Oh, hell yeah.
Suggestion's kind of like relating to people, talking to people. Yeah.
I just
Charisma.
Who doesn't love a construction worker?
There is the
you know?
option in the video game to like try and seduce or try to flirt with someone within the first like 10 minutes of the game.
And if you fail, you say, "Can I has sex with you?" Or "Can I has fuck?" or whatever. I can't remember what the line is. And then she laughs in your face and walks away.
That's the sort of video game writing that won it several awards.
Yeah,
And
it's
then-
great.
As far as drugs, I think that I have some dip.
Hey.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
active on you.
No, I think I'm gonna have the cigarettes essentially, or like nicotine.
The nicotine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Tori, you said
Um,
shrooms?
No, I
Oh,
would
wait.
maybe have a protein powder or something to that effect, but no.
Creatine.
My
Um,
body is a temple.
Cool.
Sorry, Emma, how many items did you list?
3. We get 3, right?
Was that including the drug?
No.
I think the drug is technically counts as an item slot unless you have it active.
Oh.
Right?
I mean,
Am
I
I
don't-
reading that right?
Yeah, I think you're reading that right.
Wait, did you specify what category each of your drugs enhance?
They on the drugs page it says
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's listed.
I'm looking at the drugs page right now. So nicotine, for example, the temporary effects are +2 logic, +2 drama.
Your mind is
+2.
sharp.
Yeah, it's like the professor who smokes and it looks cool. +2 suggestion and -2 endurance.
Yeah.
cool.
And yeah, I'll go ahead and say that I have been partaking in the dip.
Been chewing?
Because low-key, my work boots cancel that out, you know?
You got
Cool.
chaw?
Off the
Thank-
clock.
Yeah. Live a little, you know?
Sweet.
Hey, thank you for listening to the episode so far. I'm jumping in here real quick to talk about something we wanted to mention in the episode before we get to the end of it about the game we're playing this month. After we'd already selected the game and begun the process of playing it, we realized that there was art in the rulebook for it that was made using AI-based image processing. Specifically, it takes stock photos and alters them to look more like the style of Disco Elysium. All of us on the podcast wanted to make clear that we are against the use of AI-generated images in creative spaces, especially in the cases where it is directly taking work from artists. Upon discovering that these images were used in this game, we were conflicted. We, however, do understand that this is a complicated and nuanced issue, and we wanted to open up the space for discussion, so we talked a little bit, and we ultimately decided that we would move forward with playing the game and judge it based exclusively on its mechanics and our personal experience with playing it, while also speaking to Kevin, the creator of the game, about his decision to use this in Jamais Vu. What we ended up with was a very interesting and thought-provoking conversation in an interview that we will release after the read, play, and game episodes for this game. We are also going to do what we can to uplift artists and creators that we know and encourage you to do the same so that they can get the attention and work that they deserve in an industry that has become more and more difficult for them to thrive in. We hope that you'll listen to our thoughts on the game itself, as well as tune into our interview later on so that we can encourage conversation and awareness of the expectations and difficulties of creating in the modern tabletop role-playing scene. Thanks again for listening, and let's get back into the episode.
Awesome. So we have gone through gear and selected gear for everybody. So now we go to the next part of the character creation, which is finding out where everybody wakes up. Deciding how the character wakes up and what the initial hints of their identity are. Is that right?
Yep.
Perfect. Great. So I think Tori, for your character, I think like for both you and Emma, like I feel like in terms of identity, like the clothing you're wearing, that kind of stuff seems like it could help inform like the idea of the hints of who you are. What are you thinking?
Yeah, that works for me. You want to know my name?
Yeah, sure.
My name's Braxton, but you can just call me Brack.
Nice. What are you thinking, Emma?
What?
What are you thinking for like your idea of your hints of your identity, where you wake up?
I think I'm in my construction gear.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see, just for context, me waking up at the scene of the crime. But I don't know if that's too much.
I mean, it could be nearby. Like,
Yeah.
Can I read what the
Yeah.
I read the creating an identity hook part?
Yeah,
Once
totally.
the case is generated, it's time to see how the characters fit into the scenario. Since all the playing characters have amnesia, you don't know who you are, but you can start establishing the first clues. An effective hook identity hook follows these guidelines. 1, it presents your character away from their natural habitat. There's no family or friends around. 2, it forms clear questions in the mind of both your character and you as a player. Who are you? Why can't you remember? Do you want to remember? These questions can propel the story forward. 3, it gives you the starting set of clues from which to start investigating. 4, it sets the tone and mood for your character's arc of auto discovery.
I know what mine is.
Perfect.
I come to about like a block away with my tin lunchbox. And I am eating my lunch. And that's when I look down. And the bottom of my tin lunchbox, it has blood on it.
And that ain't ketchup.
Where'd that come from? I have to figure it out.
That's a great first memento, because each of the sample identity hooks have the scenario and then a first memento, which is like your first something that
My lunchbox
might be related to your past.
I have an idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think my character wakes up with a throbbing headache on the floor of a motel. And the first thing he feels is his face and his broken nose. And he looks all around him, a couple of teeth scattered here and there, the hotel door broken into, and the entire room is completely thrown, save for a couple of papers in the corner that are completely burnt. Only the edges survive. And he feels the back of his uniform that he's now looking at as he turns over and realizes that he's in like a cop's outfit, and what he has been laying on are his badge and a locket. And when he opens the locket, it is filled with cocaine. And underneath the cocaine, if he moves it a little bit, a very faded photo of a figure he doesn't recognize.
Whoa.
It's
good.
me.
Okay. I'll say, what time of year is it? Is it winter? Is it summer?
Yeah, it's like heading into winter.
I wake up, I can tell I was on a run because I feel so well stretched and my heart rate's up. But I don't recognize where I am. I seem to be a little cold because I'm dressed, active gear, whereas like the temperature appears to be dropping. And I notice I do have a camera on me. And as I'm flipping through pictures of groups of smiling people I don't seem to recognize, I see what looks to be a street similar to where I am now. And is that construction? And they maybe were slowly getting farther and farther as if I was coming from that direction with my camera. as if I was running away. And that'll be my starting
Wow.
spot.
Okay. So that seems like all solid for you guys. How the characters know of the crime and how they're compelled to investigate it, how the characters get to know each other, and what the game's opening scene is. So that's now what y'all will discuss.
Woo!
Sweet.
Are we moving into play, or is
This is kind of what you have to establish before you play.
Yeah.
When we're waking up, are we gathering clues? Or are we just? Is this scene more about establishing where we were before we all met up?
It can be a combination, I think, of getting some clues and building into the case.
Which is why this might cross the boundaries of read play episode.
I think that the scene is supposed to be like not necessarily the scene where you all wake up, but it is the first scene, like it's at the scene of the crime, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's at the scene of the crime.
Yeah, so you've all met up there, so that's why you have to determine what would have drawn you there and
what would have taken you.
Then I'm not in a motel room. I'm in like a packaging crate nearby.
Oh.
Well, you could have been in a motel room if you want, but also, I mean, that's good too.
And then
before.
you go wandering.
Yeah, crate nearby.
I think that it would also be good, like there's blood on the bottom of my tin lunchbox, and then when I do a little more looking around, I notice some drips, and I follow it back to the crime scene. Like, essentially retracing my steps, but I don't remember having been there. I think that's how I get there.
Okay, great.
And I think I'm just following the pictures on my camera.
Awesome. No, I think that's perfect. Awesome. And then Anish, you're just in a crate nearby and kind of wake up.
I'm in a crate nearby. I wake up. I stumble out. I see another trail of blood, and I'm like, "Is this mine?"
Cool.
I see a construction worker.
I wonder if you have any pictures of us. I'm so curious.
Me?
Yeah, like if you're like if I was also over there, like
that's a good question.
I wonder if any of these random pictures are.
If there was, what would I see?
I don't know.
Is this the sort of thing we begin?
I haven't looked in a mirror yet.
I think
awesome. What else do we need to establish before we go into play? Is that everything?
Pretty much it, unless we want to talk about rules a little bit. Not rules, but like mechanics.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the tokens and flag mechanics.
And health?
Yeah.
Morale?
Yeah, we can briefly. I don't want to talk about too much because it'll just kind of come up in the game, but I do think that it's important for us to establish the tokens thing, and we can talk about the health and morale because those would probably be good to know, because I don't really remember them. The tokens are interjections, which I believe tie into the thought mechanic, right?
Interjection skills just don't show up. They'll pop up in the most inconvenient of moments to alert you, demand something from you, or just casually share their unsolicited wisdom. This is good news. This is a goldmine for dramatic scenes. So I think, and it says, during an interjection, the action pauses for a moment, and you and the GM play out the mental interaction you have with the invoked skill. So the way interjections work, from what I'm seeing, you can also interject.
The interjection, it's not tied to the thoughts, like I said it was. It's each person has an interjection token, and when you can use your token and give it to someone else to interject on them. So like in the video game, sometimes random thoughts or sometimes random skills will start talking to you about things based on certain triggers. But I guess that's more thoughts. But like in the game, sometimes they'll just start talking. And so if you think this would be a good moment for for a skill to start talking to another character, then you can use an interjection token on them.
In terms of mechanical application, this is very similar to how in Masks, people can influence your what were the skills called in Masks? Anish?
Labels.
Labels. It's very similar to how people influence your labels. So different characters can be like, how does your electrochemistry, like, Anish, like, for you, like, are you feeling anything like compelled with your electrochemistry in the scene? Or it could be something like, for me, the GM, like I could say, Like, are you feel like, do you feel this way through like this specific skill, like calling upon this specific skill interaction?
And like in Masks, you can accept the interjection or try to reject it using a resistance roll.
Yep.
So it's basically like if Tori's like, I think like Emma's character sees a hard hat and I think would be interested in picking up the hard hat, or would have a thought about that. Tori, you can say that about Emma's character, and then Emma, you can decide, yeah, I think that interjection would pop into my mind, or I will resist that. Right, Michael? Is that?
Yeah. No,
And-
that's what it seems like.
What I think is going to be funny, right? Because this game, I think it can vary in tone.
Mhm.
I, for example, I would, as a player, if for example, Emma's character goes up against a skill that they're not good at, I would be like, or a challenge that they may not be good at. I, as a player, I just like to cause chaos, so I'd be like, interjection token. What if this skill you're not good at starts talking to you and is like, "Hey, don't you want to use me?"
Mhm.
More chance to fail, more chances to lead to interesting outcomes. But I think there's also a flags mechanic in this game, to just briefly talk about lines and veils with asking people to do things.
Yeah, interjection flags, the way those work is you as a player can indicate how you'd like to be interjected by others to explore something of your character. Like for a niche, if you want people to interject on your electrochemistry, you can just say, hey, this is something I'd like for people to interact with me on. Or, but they don't necessarily have to do that. That's just you saying, this is what I want to be. Or you could also flag, I don't want to be interjected on this at all, if it's a really low skill you have.
Cool. I'll set a flag at the top because I think it'll come up maybe. I'd love to lean into all fun drug stuff as dopamine receptors, but part of the skill is also talking about just like sex and that sort of thing. I think I want to avoid that. I don't like the idea of that for this character. But
Yeah.
maybe next time.
Cool. Yeah, I think flags are a good way to kind of like red light, green light type stuff.
I think I need to look at the descriptions of the skills again to kind of.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, I'm thinking specifically of mine to be like, where could this be evoked?
It also doesn't have to be specifically tied to a skill. It could be a concept. Like, for example, they list, you can flag out what you want to be interjected on regarding your character's addiction, a love interest, or recurring feeling, or some prejudice or something.
Yeah.
So we're not sure what skill it is.
Yeah.
I did see the endurance one. Because I think that's something of like, yeah, I could definitely do this. You know, like the misconception that you can take something on when you can't. Would love for that to be played with. I think that's a fun one. But I'm not a huge fan of the endurance also serves as your gut instinct. Again, not a huge fan for what I want to play. It serves as your gut instinct, and your gut instinct might say things that aren't politically correct. Where it is, it tends to be a bit, fascist sometimes. I don't know if that's the vibe that this character is. I'm sending to the group chat. It's just I'm sending you the group chat who I think my character looks like, and it's just Allie Beardsley. their construction persona when they got certified to do construction work. I think that's the vibe.
Sweet.
Okay, cool. Tori, you got any?
I don't think so. I quite enjoy gore. I think Brack is perhaps straight edge. So I don't think being around people who indulge would bother Brack, but you better not try to, get me to partake, because then Buster Brown, you won't like what you come sniffing around for.
Perfect. Great. Awesome.
And I believe that the GM can interject as much as they want. You guys can only interject on each other by spending your token to someone, and you can only do it, I think, to each other if you have a token. But you can invoke interjections against yourself as much as you want to. You can be like, I think an interjection will come up here. So yeah. Are there any other? I do want to kind of touch on health really quickly, just because I don't remember what it is.
I have a -1 to health
Darn.
Because of the
I
drug?
do. Yeah,
I think you
because
do 2 in each.
I consume nicotine. Don't do drugs, kids.
Each time you are harmed due to a stressful situation, you lose 1 point in the track, and you also gain a condition. Conditions are kind of similar to the condition. I think they're called conditions in masks too, or am I thinking of the damage in masks? Basically, you can replenish 1 point of health by resting, being medically treated by an expert, having a particularly nutritious meal, or using medicines. If you ever reach 0 health, your character is removed from the game. Describe how your character dies or is otherwise incapacitated to continue the investigation. So you're done. You're done. You're done.
Ah!
Yeah.
You're
0
not
health
that
or
guy.
0 morale.
Trust
Morale. Morale is like
Not that guy.
like mental.
Motivation. Yeah.
Yeah.
And those both start at 5.
And you can
Oh.
clear
Or
morale by
lower.
clearing, by relaxing, enjoying a moment of happiness, experiencing meaningful connection with another person, or indulging in a vice.
Yeah.
I can't remember how you take the damage. Is it by failing?
It
I see what you're
depends. It can be by failing. It can be by drugs. It just depends on the context.
Okay.
I remember so vividly as a child being like, why would anyone smoke cigarettes? You know it's going to take years off your life. Why would you, do a... And now I'm just like, oh.
Well, I remember having like a really intense conversation with my mom at one point. If she was like, I saw kids smoking at my at the high school I went to, and she was like, why are kids doing that? Like, what's going on? I thought that like people knew about cigarettes, and I was like, I'm pretty sure it's just a form of self-harm. Like, it's just like, I don't want to live that long, and I look cool doing it, and there's immediate effects, so why not?
Why
And
did
like,
they have to make smoking look so cool?
I'm like, what
It
a
really
better way
does.
to show that I don't give a fuck than by doing something that makes me look cool and is actively harming me. Like,
God.
and I'm like, I think that's what it is. It's
Can
like,
we talk about how every anti-vaping ad is the sickest shit ever?
Yeah.
Like that one.
It's
that
like
one
metal
ad-
in your lungs.
That sounds
And then it's the
fucking
giant
metal.
dragon thing that comes up, and
Yes,
it's like,
that's
and then
so
and he like
sick.
pulls out a sword, and it's like nicotine has like tiny flecks of metal in your lungs. Do you want that? And I'm
Yes,
like, hell
I
yeah.
do. That's sick as fuck. Anyway,
Or the ones that have the outused memes.
Last one, I remember, and I really regret responding the way I did in the moment, but my little brother was chastising me for drinking coffee. And he was like, don't you know how that messes up your sleep system? It makes it so hard to wake up in the morning. And I said, you know what else makes it hard to wake up in the morning? Life. And I really wish I had it.
Damn.
I'm desperately trying to find an edit that someone else has made of Bob the Builder with the lesbian flag behind him, but I can't find it, so I think I'm gonna have to make it. Sorry, this is unrelated. I'm doing my own work now.
Okay, so the structure of the actual game will be trying to solve a mystery. In order to solve this mystery, you will be gathering clues, and you will use these clues to form hunches, and you will use these hunches to solve. We're going to be using the fast solve method. Usually you have to get more, like you have to get like 7 clues or something, or 7 hunches. But right now, basically at any time you can attempt to solve the mystery as long as you have met all the conditions to solve the mystery. And I believe this is separate tracks for your personal mystery and the overall mystery, correct?
Right. Yes.
So here, when using these rules, you can make an attempt to solve the case as long as the following things are true. You have at least 3 progress if you're using the fast alternative rules, which we are. 3 progress on the track, meaning 3 hunches, I believe.
Yes.
You have at least 2 different types of hunches on that mystery, because there's like 6 or 7 different types of hunches, which we'll go over in the actual play. You haven't attempted to solve that specific mystery during the current scene. You can explain out loud how all the hunches fit together in a plausible game. The GM can veto explanations that are too lazy or too crazy for the established mood of the game. Then you roll 2d6 plus your progress made with no skill or tag modifiers, and then solving a mystery is challenging. So if you fail, you don't solve it. If you and you lose a couple hunches, and basically you have to like go back a little bit, and your like progress is stunted. But if you do it, then you solve it. You can do that whenever. You don't have to solve it as soon as you've got 3. You can wait so that your modifier is bigger.
Yep.
And in order to get hunches, you get 3 clues, I believe, of at least 2 different kinds, or 4 clues.
3 clues.
I think it's 3 clues, and you can combine these clues. It's kind of like, Emma, this is only going to be a metaphor for you. In Ace Attorney Investigations, the logic, like you
Sure,
connect 2 different things.
Yeah,
Anyway,
of course.
we'll go into that more later. Are there any other things we want to cover in the read episode? Because then we'll transition into the play.
I think that's good.
That is it for our read episode. Thank you so much for listening. Join us next week for the play episode, where these characters will solve some crazy mysteries. We will see you on a different side of the table.